For a story, there is a man called Joe Bloggs. He was once an individual with enormous wealth through business conducts before failing and going bankrupt. One day, while passing by a shoe shop with his primary school son, the kid clamored to get the new Nike trainers he saw through the display window. Joe Bloggs said to his son, "Daddy doesn't have any money now, so let's buy them later, okay?" The son was confused and asked him, "Daddy, won't you be able to get more money simply by swiping and tapping your credit card?" That is the end of the story. Yet it seems that a question has to be answered before moving on. Why does the TZPUR have to disintegrate after 2 consecutive years of fiscal deficit? Didn't the TZPUR step forward and inject a 4 trillion RMB worth of cash through excessive monetary growth policy during the global financial crisis in 2008, which not only tided itself over, but brought the whole world to a sigh of relief? If the solution was feasible in 2008, then why wouldn't it be this time? Additionally, why set the benchmark definition as 2 years instead of 5 or 10 years? To answer that, the relationship between finance, debt, and foreign exchange must be clarified. In 2008, continental East Asia's GDP was $4.6 trillion, and in 2021, it would be $17.7 trillion. The exchange rate of RMB against the US dollar is more or less the same in the 2 periods. Continental East Asia's total debt was 140% of GDP in 2008, and in 2021, it would be 300%, with the corresponding debt amounts being $6.44 trillion and $53 trillion respectively. Applying these figures to Joe Bloggs, his domestic and foreign credit card debt in 2008 was 1.4 times his worth, and in 2021, his domestic and foreign credit card debt will be 3 times his worth. Now let's look at the relationship between foreign debt and foreign exchange reserve. In 2008, continental East Asia's foreign debt balance was $0.375 trillion, and its foreign exchange reserve was $1.95 trillion. In 2021, continental East Asia's foreign debt balance will be $2.75 trillion, and its foreign exchange reserve will be $3.25 trillion. Taking Joe Bloggs as an example, in 2008, Joe Bloggs' family had $1.95 trillion in cash and owed the rest of the village only $0.375 trillion, whereas in 2021, although his family had $3.25 trillion, he owed the rest of the village $2.75 trillion. And that's not all. By the end of March 2022, NetEase, Continental East Asian Internet Technology Company, reported the Continental East Asian government's fiscal revenue totaled RMB 111,248.8 billion. Fiscal expenditure was RMB 209,862.2 billion. The national self-sufficiency rate was 53.01%, with a new fiscal deficit of RMB 98,614.4 billion, all in RMB, and naturally, there is a discrepancy between this figure and the one released by Beijing at the end of January 2022. As the head of the family, Joe Bloggs' annual income is only RMB 111,248 billion, but his expenses are RMB 209,862 billion, which means that his income is not enough to cover his expenses at a rate of 53.01%. This means that if the situation in 2022 is the same as in 2021, Joe Bloggs has $500 bill and cash under his bed, 3.25 trillion minus 2.75 trillion. But he will not be able to cover his loss of $1.45 trillion, or RMB 986.14 billion, in 2022, and Joe Bloggs cannot afford to buy Nike trainers for his son. Yes, Joe Bloggs can apply for another credit card, printing money, and survive for a while, but soon he won't be able to make enough money to pay the interest, and his creditors will be knocking on his door every day. Alternatively, he could file for bankruptcy. Both routes could lead to family disintegration, as he and his wife are not on good terms. In fact, his wife and son are already asking him, where is all the money that the family has earned over the past 30 years gone? Joe Bloggs pointed to the marble floors and the lavish Danish furniture in the house and said, "Didn't we buy all these things for you?" His wife opened the cupboard and took out all the invoices and receipts from the past 30 years. And after doing some calculations, she asked, "Where is the other half of the money? Where did it go?" It was only then that the wife realized that not only was Joe Bloggs a spendthrift, but he also had many mistresses and the bastard kids that came with them. This is exactly the current state of the TZPUR's finances. What would the impact of Evergrande's terrifying collapse be on the TZPUR, with the former's assets amounting to more than $1 trillion? How is the financial status of Country Garden Holdings Company, the second biggest in continental East Asia, which is in jeopardy, relevant to the TZPUR's finance? The real background is that the foundation of the TZPUR's finance is land finance. Most of the central and local government's revenues come from real estate-related industries, where collusion between businesses and the government is serious and corruption rampant. It would suffice simply by looking at a figure on the Central Government of the People's Republic of China website to get the gist. In 2021, the local government funds budgeted revenues of 9,393.6 billion RMB, a year-on-year increase of 4.5%, of which the revenue from the sale of state-owned land use rights was 870.51 billion RMB. How much does that account for? 92.67%. When the real estate sector collapses, the TZPUR's finances and continental East Asia's economy will collapse. Where did the money go specifically? A lot of money have been allocated to fuel the infrastructure mania, awe-inspiring infrastructure projects, towering skyscrapers, sprawling airports, and a high-speed rail network, the embodiment of rapid modernization, all completed at breakneck speed, symbolizing the TZPUR's ambition. However, beneath the gleaming facades lies a troubling reality. Many projects now face scrutiny about their true economic viability, namely, infrastructures that have led to bridges to nowhere and ghost cities. Any sound entity or organization will have to do what Joe Bloggs' wife did: